Imagine yourself sitting at a restaurant with some friends. You're out to dinner and you've already placed your orders. So the waiter finally comes back and brings you your food, and you're just sitting, eating happily amongst your friends. A couple minutes into your meal, you notice your friend across the table starts to cough and clear his throat a little bit, but he doesn't seem too concerned, so you just brush it off. Then a couple minutes later, he starts to look a little swollen around his mouth, and he looks like he's having some trouble breathing. He just looks uncomfortable. So he motions over the waiter and asks for a list of the ingredients that were in his food. Then suddenly he grabs his throat and he's wheezing and coughing as if he can't breathe at all. And suddenly your fun dinner party has turned into this hectic chaos amongst you and all your friends, and you're just really concerned about him. And then you stop and you realize, wait, our friend, he has a food allergy and he's experiencing an anaphylactic shock. According to Catherine Brown, a registered nurse for immunology and allergy practice, an anaphylactic shock is an extreme allergic reaction. And this usually occurs as a reaction to food or a bee sting or something like that. And if it's not treated right away, it can be life-threatening. It usually starts with tingling and itchiness around the throat, which leads to warm sensations throughout the body, the development of hives, tightening of the throat, wheezing and coughing, difficulty breathing, and finally, completely closing of the throat in extreme situations, which prevents breathing altogether. But fortunately, we have a solution to allergic reactions, and that is epinephrine, which is a medication found within the EpiPen. This little device saves lives every single day. According to Tracy Siegel of Mercury News, the EpiPen is an auto-injecting device that injects epinephrine upon contact, which saves people's lives every single day. This is the reason that someone you know could live to see tomorrow. Both my cousin and my very good friend suffered from severe food allergies, and they never leave the house without their EpiPen in hand. So people can relax a little bit because they know that they have this medication right nearby in case they are to experience an anaphylactic shock. However, within the past decade, the price of the EpiPen has skyrocketed. Erin E. Carroll tells us that since 2004, the current price of the EpiPen has increased 4.5 times. A device that is necessary for life-threatening conditions has become something that people can no longer afford. Throughout this speech, I will explain to you the role of epinephrine in the EpiPen, why the EpiPen has kind of come out on top in this industry, why its prices are increasing, and what we can do about this. Indeed, the government should be setting regulations on drugs for life-threatening conditions. So in an extreme allergic reaction, the body releases a large amount of histamine, and this leads to the allergic reactions and the symptoms that I described to you just a moment ago. But when epinephrine is injected into the body, this reverses the reaction and stabilizes the body. So RN Catherine Brown explains why the EpiPen is the ideal form of administration for epinephrine. First of all, it always gives the precise dosage. You know in an emergency situation that it's going to give the exact amount that you need every time. And beyond this, it's so simple to use, whether you're a professional or otherwise. When you're in that emergency situation, you know that whoever is experiencing the allergic reaction, you'll be able to administer it properly. So many of you are probably wondering why the sudden increase in price. Well, Rafi Mohammed of the Harvard Business Review explains that it's not really the fault of the pharmaceutical companies, but instead the U.S. government. So he explains in one line, the bottom line, most countries play hardball on drug prices, while the U.S. plays retail. So other countries have government regulations on these drugs, and the U.S. does not have these. So naturally, as a result of the free market, the drug prices are increasing. And beyond this, John R. Graham of the New York Times explains that the government also has intercessions on these manufacturing companies, allowing them to raise their prices above the free market level. And Mylan is the company that creates the EpiPen, and they are the dominating company in this practice. And that is because there have been alternatives available, but the Institute for Safe Medical Practices explains that these alternatives are unreliable in their dosage. They have not proven effective and reliable in these extreme situations. So people with these extreme food allergies have basically assumed that EpiPen and Mylan is their only reliable choice for these extreme situations. So when we break down the cost of the EpiPen, you would be shocked at the price of the retail price compared to the manufacturing price. Roland Previtt and Bob Wallace of Redmond Engineering tell us that the current price for a package of 2 EpiPens sits at $608.
Whoa.
And they broke down the EpiPen into all of its parts. And as you can see here, none of the actual parts that make up the EpiPen cost more than 50 cents, except the epinephrine itself, and that's only $1.01. So when they added this all together, a price for to make 2 EpiPens, the package, is $8.02. So why are we charging $608 for something that is so incredibly cheap to make? This is entirely unethical for people that have these conditions. Andrew Clark of the New York Times points out that even though Mylan has said they're going to try to offer financial aid, they have not in any way tried to lower their listed price. And RN Catherine Brown explains that she even sees this in her own patients. People have simply stopped buying EpiPens that need them. They've stopped carrying them around. They've stopped carrying them at all or they're carrying expired pens, which are not nearly as effective. So what can we do about this? Well, as Americans, we must take responsibility and notify the people in our government who can make a change that this is a problem. So Aaron Kesselheim of the Journal of the American Medical Association advises us to write letters to our U.S. congressmen because these are the individuals who are the lawmakers. They're the ones who can make these policies and make this happen. But if we don't contact them and express our concern, nothing will happen. So in these letters, we would encourage them to pass these regulations on the prices of drugs. And beyond this, to encourage the FDA to speed up the process for the review for alternatives, because right now this process is very slow. And also, we would have them, as a temporary solution, encourage them to allow us to pass a law allowing us to import drugs from other countries that already have these restrictions, because right now we don't have a law allowing us to do that. And overall, doing this would be bringing about awareness to this topic more and putting it kind of into the political world, because right now it's a topic that sometimes gets pushed aside and forgotten about, among other things, but by notifying the people who can make a change, we would be bringing more awareness and making sure people know that this is important. And of course, it's important to look at the other side of the argument. Richard Dufresne explains some concerns that we might have with the EpiPen and with setting a restriction on these prices, and that includes the question of government and power. Would letting them have these regulations be giving them too much power and ignoring our ideal for free market? And beyond this, the question of long-term commitment. With the ever-changing prices of manufacturing, would they be able to commit to these, in the long term, to these restrictions? But in summary, it is very disappointing, this whole situation, because we have a solution to allergic reactions. We'll never have a cure, but we have a solution that we found through epinephrine. But this solution is being blocked from execution because of the greediness of the company and the lack of regulations that the U.S. government holds. And though we have all these alternatives, they've proven completely unreliable, and thus people feel the only option to have is the EpiPen, which is so expensive. So we must bring about awareness by notifying the people who can make a change. So imagine yourself back at that restaurant, and you and your friends are out to dinner, and your friend across the table is experiencing an anaphylactic shock. He's had food allergies his entire life, but when the price of the EpiPen increased, he decided that it was not financially ideal for him to purchase an EpiPen. So your friend did not have his EpiPen with him that day.